What's going on, everybody? Quancredible here to bring you a video that I've actually wanted to do for a really long time. Harry Potter is actually something I didn't really get into until very recently. Like not like recently, but like within the past like year of my life, I did end up watching all the movies and they're really dope. And it got me thinking, since I'm a huge fan of Black Clover, is what if the Black Bulls were in the world of Harry Potter? Like kind of like I want to know what houses they were into. So after thinking about it, doing a little bit of research, I came up with what I believe, or like not what, but where I believe all of the Black Bulls would end up if they were sorted by the Sorting Hat into Hogwarts. Obviously, this is just my opinion. So if you disagree, please let me know where you think people will go down below in the comments. And before I start, I give a really brief rundown on each of the houses, just so you guys can have a bit of a background or a refresher right before I start. Basically, the Gryffindor house, the main qualities that they kind of focus on is like bravery, chivalry, standing up for what's right. They do have a tendency to be sometimes arrogant or reckless or a little hot-headed, so that's kind of some downfalls there. As for Slytherin, they're usually like really ambitious, cunning. They usually have a really good heritage. Granted, in the series of Harry Potter, typically Slytherins are connected to the characters that are evil or bad, but not necessarily all Slytherins are bad. As we've seen through the story of Harry Potter, not just because you're a Slytherin doesn't mean that you're a bad person innately. Hufflepuff is kind of a underrepresented house. They're usually fair, loyal, determined, self-sacrificing, things of those kind of nature. They do have a tendency to be a bit like have a lower self-esteem, or a little bit overly modest or like overly humble, just because they tend to be more like assisting in background as opposed to being in the forefront. As where Ravenclaw is a really intelligent house full of smart and witty people that are cunning. The only issue they have is they're kind of like out of touch with reality or out of touch with actual life. That's kind of just a brief rundown of all of the houses before I start. But without any further ado, we are going to get started with Asta. Asta, obviously having all of the best traits of bravery and chivalry and all of that, would easily go in Gryffindor. There's not really too much to think about there. It's pretty cut and dry for him. Now, Noelle is one that could kind of go either way. You can kind of take it with how her personality is, like how Noelle is really determined and she does have a lot of those like Gryffindor-esque qualities, but at the same time, she does have really good heritage, and so I could also make a very good argument for her being into Slytherin. Honestly, for me, I kind of feel like she personally would end up in Slytherin to me, but if someone said Gryffindor, I could kind of understand. As for the next person, that would be Magna. I kind of really do think Magna, like Magna has big Hufflepuff vibes for me, just because of how like determined and loyal he is. But Magna is also a super brave person. Like he is really brave when you think about how much he really doesn't have, but still shows up to fight. So like I kind of feel like Magna would end up in Gryffindor. And then kind of the same thing for Luck. But whereas Luck, I kind of feel like he doesn't really overly exemplify any of the qualities of the other houses. However, he was a bit arrogant in the beginning of Black Clover, as well as he is extremely reckless, or he's less reckless now, I would argue, but I could still see him being in Gryffindor. I could easily see Magna and Luck as well as Asta all being in Gryffindor together. I feel like that like in my mind that just fits so well. Now for some of the other characters like Gauche. Gauche is one of the smarter members of the Black Bulls. If you remember when they ranked all the intelligence of the Black Bull members that we had at the time, Gauche was number one. Obviously we didn't have Zora or Noct on there, so he probably might be under them depending on how smart you have those guys. But Gauche is easily one of the more intelligent members of the Black Bulls, as well as he's extremely cunning, seeing as he was on the run with Marie for so long. So I could easily see Gauche ending up in Ravenclaw. And in that same turn, Gordon is clearly very out of touch with reality. He's very creepy. He comes off as extremely weird all the time on like accident. So I could easily see him and Ravenclaw together. And then it also keeps the whole like best friend thing of like him and like Gauche going. And obviously, as much as I would want Gray to be in Ravenclaw, I really feel like when you're thinking of like a like true Hufflepuff, like I really feel like Gray exemplifies a lot of the negative qualities of Hufflepuff, being like having really low self-confidence and being really meek. And it's also, it was Gray is really like assisting focus. Like she wants to like be useful to people. So I can really see her ending up in Hufflepuff. And like actually like while we're speaking of like trying to be overly helpful, I could also see Finral being Hufflepuff. He like out of all of the characters in the Black Bulls that fit into houses, I feel like Finral fits in Hufflepuff better than anyone fits in any other house, with the exception of maybe Asta being inside of of Gryffindor. Like Finral fits the image of what a like Hufflepuff is extremely well. I don't think anybody can disagree there. Now as for Vanessa, Vanessa's a kind of a weird character because she can kind of go either or. I could kind of see her being in Ravenclaw just because she is moderately intelligent, but then again I could also see if somebody wanted to make a argument for her being in Hufflepuff, seeing as she is like a loyal and fair person at the same time. You could kind of go either way with that one, and I wouldn't be too mad. She definitely doesn't fit in the other two houses, so it's really between those two. And then next up we have Charmy. Charmy is weird because she doesn't really fit in any of them, honestly. But one of the funnier things about the houses in Harry Potter is that the Gryffindor house, like I said earlier, they really wanted students that were brave and exemplified that, whereas as the Slytherin houses initially really wanted people that had that like great heritage, whereas the Ravenclaw houses really wanted people that were witty. And it's funny because the Hufflepuff were kind of just okay with anyone else. So like Charmy kind of fits in that category of being anyone else. Like she really would fit. And then also if you want to go Cotton, Puff, that's kind of how my brain works also. It's like really simple. So I can see her being in there because of that also. Next up we have Zora, a fan favorite character obviously. Zora is extremely intelligent and really witty, so I could easily see him ending up inside of the Ravenclaw house. But at the same time, he does have some pretty steep ambitions and is very cunning. So you could also make the argument for him being in Slytherin, and I wouldn't be too upset. The only thing that might stop him there is he has not like his peasant heritage, so like the whole heritage thing that Slytherin takes pride in, he doesn't really fit there. But in terms of ambition and cunning, he has it in spades in my opinion. And then we have Henry. Henry obviously is basically living his life as a home for other people. I feel like you can't get too much more Hufflepuff than that. And as for Narrow's kind of weird to me because like she can kind of fit almost anywhere, honestly. Like Nero could really fit in a lot of places if you really wanted her to. I kind of personally see her as more of a Ravenclaw just because she seems really intelligent. However, if someone wanted to say like, oh, since she's so loyal and dedicated, you could see her as a Hufflepuff, I couldn't really be mad. But at the same time, she's really brave for what she did. Like extreme, like I honestly feel like she could fit in Gryffindor too. But like to me, I feel like she's more Ravenclaw than anything else. And then I was debating doing this character, Libby, just because like he is a black bull, but it's kind of weird since he's a devil. But you know, who cares? They'll throw him in the house anyway. I kind of feel like he would probably be Slytherin or Gryffindor, depending on how you want to interpret his like character. But that's just me. I'm not gonna do Nox Devils because we really don't know much about them at all outside of Gimadello, and we really don't know anything about him either. So there's not much to go on. I will still do Noct and Yami. Despite them being a bit too old to be in houses, I figured that I put them in like teaching roles because I think that would make a lot more sense. Noct would obviously be the defensive dark arts teacher. Like there's literally no other place he could possibly go. And then as for Yami would either teach a class about magical creatures, because if you remember, Yami does have the basement full of the magical creatures or magical beasts in the Black Bull's base, and he is actually fond of them. And then he could also be like a Quidditch coach, because if you remember in the school ranking or when like Black Clover did that thing where they were putting like where everyone would be in a school setting, Yami was a gym teacher. So like gym teachers, like he has those vibes there, so I could easily see him being a like Quidditch coach. And not to mention, Yami is one of the like few characters that we like see consistently riding a broom, so like it kind of just fits on that one to me. But yeah, I did have a lot of fun with this. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree, or which ones you agree or disagree with, or just where you guys would put everybody. I'm really curious to know what you guys think about where I had everybody. That being said, make sure you guys like the video as well. Subscribe to the channel. There's definitely going to be more Black Clover content coming since the anime is over, so it does free up a bit of my video making time to just kind of just do freestyle whatever I want. So look forward to that. Aside from that, you guys enjoy the rest of you guys' day, and I will see you all in my next video.